Good morning, everyone. This is Generic Fool's Test. I am going to be reacting this morning to a Fat Electrician video, specifically the Limping Lady, Virginia Hall, who is, at least by him, considered to be the most deadly spy of World War II. I know a bit about her. She was born in my home state of Maryland. And my mouth's eyes are acting so weird. The problem of when you're wearing glasses while being a VTuber. Either way, one thing that's sort of, I guess, doesn't really matter probably to most people, but to me it's a huge thing, is that last night when I streamed, I managed to have at least 3 viewers for the entire stream, which, to me is a really massive achievement. But, I'm not going to take too long. I don't want this to turn into, oh, he spent 15 minutes talking about stuff unrelated to the video. So, without further ado, I'll get started.
But if I did, this is who I would want her to look up to.
I'm sorry,
I don't have a daughter, but if I did, this is who I would want her to look up to. Today we're talking about Virginia Hall, aka the Limping Lady, probably the most effective American spy of World War II, and she managed to do that with one leg. But first, a word from our sponsors. This video is brought to you by Ridge Wallet. If you've been on the internet in the last decade, you know what Ridge Wallet is. I'm not going to waste your time. Ridge hired me to tell you to buy your dad a Ridge Wallet for Christmas. If your dad's anything like mine, his wallet probably looks like a Gutenberg Bible and his back hurts, and nobody has ever pointed out to this poor guy that, hey, maybe your back hurts because every time you sit down, you've got a phone book underneath one butt cheek and you look like you're the Leaning Tower of Pisa inside of a chair. So head over to ridge.com/TFE and shop the holiday sale. You're going to save up to 30%, and when you use my link, you're also going to be automatically enrolled in a chance to win a $4,000 bundle from Ridge. Let's get back to the video. All right, Virginia Hall, born in 1906 in Baltimore. She grew up in a really wealthy family and was a complete tomboy the entire time, and her father absolutely loved it. He taught her how to hunt, and he completely endorsed her being not very ladylike all of the time. In addition to being a tomboy, she's also highly intelligent, graduated from high school with ease, and getting accepted into the top female colleges in the country. Her mother, on the other hand,
have you heard of Virginia Hall?
Because immediately after high school, she expected Virginia to get married to a young man from another wealthy family in the area so they could combine their family businesses. So she gets engaged to this guy at 18 years old. Fast forward 1 year, she's 19 years old.
You'll learn about him now. Or her now,
She keeps catching her fiance cheating on her, so she calls off the engagement and runs off to college despite her mother's wishes. She immediately attends the top 2 female colleges in the country, Radcliffe and Barnard, which are the equivalent of Harvard and Columbia. She studies economics and foreign languages, deciding that she wants to become an American diplomat. She wants to live in
And how are you doing? Person, just to be. That's good to hear. Virginia Hall is one of those people who I think, you don't hear about her, but she's a really good example of a woman who went through adversity. Because at the time when she was around, sexism was fully blown. Like, wasn't full blown, just like, oh, women can't do anything like this. What's that? You can know like 7 languages. You have all the qualifications to do this job. You're a woman. You can't do it. And then she's just like, fuck you, I can. In a world that kept telling her no, she persevered and managed to become somebody who was outstanding in her field. And what's more important is she didn't just whine about how difficult her life was. She's just like, whatever, I'll go elsewhere. Because she never let anything keep her down. Because she was the best around. Nothing's going to ever keep her down. Sorry for that very lame pun. Yeah.
an embassy and represent the United States of America. However, this is the 1920s and the odds of a female landing that job are slim to none, but she wants to maximize her chances, so she learns as many foreign languages as possible. She becomes fluent in German, Italian, and French and finishes college abroad studying in Germany, France, and Austria. While finishing college in Europe in the late 1920s, she would bear witness to the birth of fascism and the rise of the Nazi Party and have a better understanding of how dangerous that ideology was than 99% of Americans. She would return home in 1929. A few months after that, the stock market would crash, the Great Depression would start, and her father, a wealthy business owner, would lose almost everything, and the increased stress would lead to him having a heart attack and dying. This made Virginia even more determined to accomplish her goal of becoming an American diplomat, so she got a job working for the U.S. Embassy in Poland as a secretary. She worked there for several years, and every year she would apply for a promotion to become a U.S. diplomat, and every year something went wrong. The first year, they lost her application. The second year, her application made it through because she delivered it herself, and she was a shoo-in. She could speak 4 languages, she was a college graduate, she was highly intelligent, well-spoken, so she passed the application portion of the hiring process and had to have an in-person interview, and conveniently, they accidentally told her the wrong place and the wrong time to be, so she got disqualified again. Realizing that that embassy had it out for her and was not about to let a woman become a diplomat, she transferred to a different embassy in Turkey. So now it's 1933, she's living in Turkey, she's working as a receptionist at the embassy still, and she's just waiting for that next opportunity to apply to become a diplomat. One of her hobbies at this point in time is to go out hunting with the shotgun that her father had bought for her when she was a kid. It's an irregular hobby for a woman, but Virginia's an irregular type of woman. So she goes out hunting with her friends one day, and they're hunting for snipes, which if you don't know is this little tiny bird. Apparently they're really hard to hit, and this is where the term sniper comes from. Regardless, at one point she has to hop over a fence. She forgot to turn the safety on her shotgun and accidentally blew her own foot off. Luckily her friends were there and they managed to pick her up, get her to the hospital in time to save her life. While she's in the hospital recovering, she would end up getting gangrene, which is a very, very serious type of infection, especially back then in the 1930s because antibiotics weren't going to be widely used or available for another decade. And I mean, the doctors back then are basically just grunts with scalpels, so they come over to Virginia, they're like, hey, here's the deal, you're going to die, there's one chance that we can save you. Basically, my medical opinion is your leg is pissed off and it's trying to kill you. My strategy is I'm going to kill it first. I'm going to cut it off and throw it away. So that's what they do. She gets amputated from the knee down. Later in her life, she would admit that while she was recovering in the hospital, her father had come to her in a dream and told her that she had to get through this because she had important work to do. So that's what she does. She makes a full recovery, gets a wooden prosthetic, learns how to walk again, and goes right back to trying to be an American diplomat. However, you gotta remember, she's a complete tomboy, and what's the first thing a dude does when he gets a new car, a new set of wheels, a new gun? He always gives it a name, right? Right. Virginia named her wooden leg Cuthbert. So she goes back to work and continues trying to become a diplomat. However, now they have a legitimate reason to not let her become one. They don't need to lose her application. They don't need to give her the wrong dates and the wrong times anymore, because apparently there was a pre-established rule that amputees were not allowed to become diplomats. Why? I have no idea, but it turns out that Virginia has now both literally and figuratively shot herself in the foot.
Okay.
Virginia, being the badass that she is, though, isn't about to take no for an answer, so she begins lobbying to have the rules changed altogether. She doesn't have...
Oh yeah, just everything about this, her story, is just like, holy crap, like, did this really happen? Oh my god, yes it did. Because you also have to understand, it's only after World War II that people started saying that women could do jobs. Because before then, they're like, ha ha, women? Of course they can't do that. Them and their emotions. Ha 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 ha. But, you know, because of the war, there were no men to fill the normal roles back home in America. So they're just like, oh my god, what's going to happen? We can't do anything. And then it's just like, women are like, we can do it. And they're like, oh no, you have cooties, gross. And then, you know, after things got worse, okay, fine, you can do it. And then, of course, you know, after the war, when the men came back, it's like, okay, ladies, go back to your doll houses and taking care of your families. You, like, oh, you know, it was such a bad, horrible experience having you do that work, but the men are here now. And then the women are like, no, fuck that, we want to continue working. So, you know, It's really after the Second World War when things started really getting better for women, and like they started, being able to be considered to do jobs that were for men. Though there is still some of that today, it is no longer anywhere near as prevalent as it once was.
Have much success. Fast forward 1940, Germany invades France, and Virginia is like, fuck it, I'm gonna go be an ambulance driver and help out the French because I hate Nazis. And that's exactly what she does. Virginia, a 35-year-old woman that was physically unfit to be an American diplomat where she would have to sit in an office and talk to people, is now on her way to France to be an ambulance driver in an active war zone. So she's an ambulance driver all throughout the Battle of Paris, and she is one of, if not the first Americans to actually stand up and fight against the Nazis. After France falls, she has to flee, so she hops on a train and makes her way over to Spain. While she's at the train station, she meets a British intel officer, and she tells him her story. This guy is so impressed that he's like, hey, take this phone number, call my friend, he can probably help find you a job over in England if that's where you want to go. So she calls the number looking for a job, and that number puts her in contact with a man by the name of Nicholas Boddington, one of the head guys of the newly formed British SOE. SOE standing for Special Operations Executive, which is just the new spin-off of Great Britain's Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, aka their equivalent of the CIA. So she talks to them, and they pretty much immediately want her to be a spy. She speaks German, she speaks French, she's lived in France, she understands the culture, and most importantly of all, she's an American. And this is important because that means she can use her actual American identity and all her real documentation to give to the Germans to get into France, posing as a journalist. Virginia immediately agrees and goes into training for the next 6 months, learning everything there is to know about espionage, or at least as much as she can in that amount of time. Fast forward 6 months later, mid-1941, Virginia Hall, the spy, gets dropped off in Vichy, France. Which, if you don't know, at this point in time, France is split in two. There's occupied France, and then there's unoccupied France, also referred to as Vichy, France. Now, Vichy, France is technically, supposedly free, but pretty much everybody knows that it's a puppet state for the Nazis at this point. And Hall's job is to go in there, posing as a journalist for the New York Post, build a spy network, and do anything she can to fuck with the Nazis. Okay, and just so we're on the same page, this isn't like the movies where she has like instructions to go meet with some guy that's her connection and she like integrates with this already existing spy network. No, she was the first spy to go in. She had to go in and build the network from scratch. They literally took Hall, a 35-year-old woman with a wooden leg, gave her some money and some cyanide pills in case she got caught, sent her into enemy-held territory and was like, fucking figure it out. So Hall shows up in Lyon, France.
That's a very American thing, to just send someone in and go, figure it out on your own. And like a lot of the mythological Americans of the past, yes, they did. This one did not sink or drown. She swam. She swam very well. And one of the problems is because sometimes the higher ups now go like, oh, you see, people like her managed to do it. They now go like, it works. And then they put people who are a quarter or like 90% less competent than her and just go, figure it out. And they're just like, I can't handle it, I'm drowning. Oh, you need help? They drop a 90-pound weight on you. Like, no, does that help? But yeah, it's just like, as I said, her story is so inspirational. Like, how the hell, like, as I said, this was at a time where this type of thing was unheard of. Like, regardless of whether you're a man or whether you have wherever your dangly bits are, whether up or low, above or lower, below your stomach. But yeah.
So she doesn't even have anywhere to stay. All the hotel rooms are full, all the houses are rented. So many people have been displaced from the war, there's nowhere for her to stay. So when she first gets to France, she ends up living with a bunch of nuns at first. And she like had a curfew, the whole 9 yards. Then after a couple weeks, she finally gets a hotel room, and that's where she sets up her headquarters and makes her first contact. She goes straight to the U.S. Embassy and tries to get their help. And the head of the U.S. Embassy is like, absolutely not, America's neutral, we want nothing to do with it. But the second in command of the American Embassy pulls her aside and he's like, yes, I'm willing to help. And this is really important because this is the only way she's going to be able to communicate with London. You see, because it's an embassy, they have a diplomatic bag, so it's going to be mail that's not being screened by the Nazis before it goes out. So, if this guy's willing to slip her messages to London into the diplomatic bag, it's going to be the only way that she's going to be able to get communication outside of France. So she gets it done. She establishes a connection. She now has a way to communicate with the outside world. On to the next order of business. Go see the gynecologist. Not for her, for the Nazis. You see, she has a two-pronged attack method that she's going to use to wreak havoc on the German ranks. Step A, recruit a gynecologist. Step B, recruit a brothel owner. All right, so here's the plan. She gets this gynecologist to start working with her by the name of Jean Rosette, and then she gets this brothel owner by the name of Germaine Guerin to start working with her. And the plan she works out is the brothel owner is going to send all of his employees to this particular gynecologist, and he's going to sort out the ones that do not have STDs and the ones that do have STDs, and he's not going to treat them, but he's going to give them a clean bill of health, and then the brothel owner is only going to let those ones sleep with the Nazis. So already Hall is establishing herself as a diabolical mastermind. I mean, she's conducting biological warfare, weapons of mass destruction, if you will. All the other spies are out here worried about intercepting mail and sending secret messages, and she's over here destroying the German ranks from the inside out and making them enjoy it while she does it. And the scary part is she's just getting warmed up. You see, now she starts sending messages back to London through that diplomatic bag, asking for supply drops in the countryside, and she gets them. They're dropping off guns, explosives, and she's turning around giving that to these guerrilla fighters that are just doing anything they can to fight the Germans, and she's also getting money to bribe officials and heroin. Yeah, the second prong of her prostitute attack on the German ranks is that after the employees have already given the Germans an STD, they are then also going to attempt to get them addicted to heroin. I mean, the Germans get all this credit for developing their brilliant blitzkrieg tactic during World War II, which translates to lightning war. I'm going to go...
Also, here's another thing. The blitzkrieg isn't actually a German tactic. It's more just doing things fast. What we refer to as blitzkrieg is combined arms warfare, which was done in World War I. But because, German generals after the Second World War wrote books about themselves and how great they were, people are like, wow, the Germans created blitzkrieg. When it's like, yes, a bunch of Nazis did say that they created it after the war to make themselves look good. Indeed. But yeah, it's actually referred to as combined arms warfare, and as I said, it existed in the First World War. There's a lot of stuff which is attributed to the Germans, which existed long before. Like, people are also like, the Germans created slanted armor. And it's like, no, they didn't. It's like you can look even before the war. Like, even in medieval castles, some of them have slanted walls. Because they figured out that putting armor or defenses at an angle increases how effective they are. The thing is that by slanting the armor, you're actually also reducing the amount of room inside. So for vehicles, if you slant armor, yes, you get more of a defensive ability and it's a little bit more resilient to hits, but at the same time, you make it so that there's less internal space for people to sit in. Like, some of the tanks in World War II that had slanted armor were just like, are you like 3'5"? If you're 3'5" or 3'6", you're going to be comfortable in this tank. Are you 5 foot at all? My God, it's going to be like a sardine can. Especially considering you're basically going to have to be inside there with like 2 or 3 other men. That's why a lot of times shorter people end up becoming like tank operators. Because you're not going to see someone like LeBron James inside of a tank. Because they're just too big. So tank aces are all short kings. Yes, indeed.
go ahead with whatever authority I have, and I'm going to dub this the Brothel Creek tactic in honor of Virginia Hall, because this is brilliant. So this keeps going for months and months, and she develops more and more connections and builds this enormous spy network that is officially given the code name Heckler. And every month, more and more spies are coming in, and she's helping them get set up, and these new spies know how to send wireless transmissions, so now there's other ways of getting messages outside of France. But the problem is, these wireless transmissions can get tracked by the Nazis, and a lot of these new spies are getting caught that way. So then fast forward October 1941, all the other spies, there's like 12 other ones in the area right now, and they decide they're going to have a big meeting. Basically, they're coming up with an excuse to get together and have a party and actually talk about all the cool stuff they've been doing, which is a huge mistake for a spy, so Virginia avoids it. Sure enough, all 12 spies get busted and captured, and this was known as the Marseille Mousetrap, where the German Gestapo captured 12 spies all at once. They captured all the wireless operators, and again, Virginia is basically the only spy on the ground, and she is the only spy still capable of getting a message out to London. So she's...
Yeah, I mean, think about that. All of a sudden, all of your compatriots are arrested and captured, and you have to wonder if they're going to be spilling information about you. And then basically, they're like, oh, well, get them back. And as I said, this is some like 35-year-old woman. Which, you know, at the time, you're basically being 20 would be considered being, you know, sort of middle-aged. So being 35 was like, oh my God, this person's a fossil. Saying that hurts my soul as a 35-year-old person. Sorry. But yeah. But yeah, so nowadays I'm not even middle-aged yet, I guess. No. Well, oh wait, oh, I'm sorry. As we've said, I'm not actually 35-year-old man. I'm a 10-year-old girl with a voice changer that my father got for me. Yes, indeed. Grumble, grumble, man things. Yes, definitely, indeed. My Little Pony. Sorry.
He sends a message out to London basically saying that everybody else has been captured, nobody else is going to be able to communicate except for her. In addition to that, the German Gestapo also now know what she looks like and have drawings of her, and they know that she walks with a limp, and they're starting to call her the Limping Lady. So she is effectively #1 on the Gestapo's most wanted list, and leading the Gestapo in Lyon at this point in time is Klaus Barbie, one of the most brutal Nazis of World War II. And he is...
I forgot the guy looking for her actual name was Barbie. I'm a Barbie girl in a sorry. Just like, well, you know, it was a name. And this is surprisingly apt, especially considering that the doll that Barbie was based on was a doll used to exchange for adult things from ladies of the night, as they would say. Because this video might be, you know, labeled as inappropriate. Yes, the quote-unquote creator of Barbie went to this specific European country, saw that they were giving these dolls to exchange for certain types of favors. And as a result, they were like, wow, this doll's quite pretty. Wouldn't it be great if we gave it to our kids? And so Barbie was made. But yes. Oh yeah. But yeah.
is quoted as saying, "I would do anything to find that limping Canadian bitch," end quote. He believed that she had to be Canadian because he didn't think any American could speak French so fluently.
Yeah.
London then responds by saying, hey,
that's also great, like, you know, where it's just like, oh, she speaks English and French very well. That Canadian bitch. It's just like, ha ha ha, laughs an American. America. What? Americans can't speak other languages. We only speak America.
hey, that's Terrible, A, but also, go ahead and flee, get out of the country, they're gonna find you. They know what you look like, they know that you walk with a limp, and every time you take a step with your hollow wooden leg, there is a distinct wood noise. They're gonna catch you. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but to this, Virginia basically said, hold my leg and watch this shit. Rather than flee, she decides that she's going to orchestrate a jailbreak of the other 12 spies that have been captured. But she's playing it on hardcore mode because the Germans know that they're looking for the limping lady, and every time she takes a step with her hollow wooden leg, it makes a wood noise. And then her plot armor activates and divine intervention kicks in because...
I'm sorry, what was that? It said something about sanitizer? So, sanitizer, germs, that 0.1%.
And then her plot armor activates and divine intervention kicks in because supplies into France are so low and so scarce that they're no longer getting rubber and leather to make shoes out of anymore, and people have to start carving their shoes out of wood, and all of a sudden everybody's walking around making wood noises, completely disguising her movements. So rather than fleeing the country, she tracks down the prison that the 12 spies are being held at, then finds somebody that works at the prison, convinces them to get her a roster of the prisoners, uses that to track down a different, completely unrelated prisoner's wife on the outside, befriend her, and convince her to help her. Virginia, not wanting to be seen herself because they know what she looks like, decides that she's going to have this other prisoner's wife start smuggling in supplies to the 12 spies and, by extent, this woman's husband. Like they're baking handcuff keys and screwdrivers into cakes and shit to smuggle these supplies in. And this goes so well that she decides she's really gonna start showing off. She's gonna try to smuggle in an entire wireless set into the prisoners. And the wireless set is like the size of a briefcase. So she gets a 70-year-old priest that's a double amputee from World War I to smuggle this briefcase in by sitting on it in his wheelchair, and he ends up giving it to the other spies that actually know how to use the equipment. Here's the thing, the spies on the inside needed a really big antenna to make this thing work, so they ran a wire from their cell into this like wireless setup outside across the yard and attached it to the boundary fence using the entire fence as an antenna, and somehow never got caught. So now the spies are transmitting messages from inside the prison directly to London. So fast forward like a month, Virginia has smuggled these guys everything they need to be able to break out from the inside, and once they get outside the boundary fence, she is going to be there to pick them up, get them to a safe house, and smuggle them out of the country. Everything is completely arranged. Then on the day of the jailbreak, Virginia makes sure that somebody else tries to smuggle in a bunch of booze to the prisoners, knowing that they would get caught and that the guards would end up drinking all the alcohol that night, making it easier for the spies to slip away. Which is exactly what happens that night. All the guards are drinking, partying, having a good time, and while that's going on, the spies are utilizing the handcuff keys and all the tools Virginia smuggled in to escape. They run across the yard under the cover of night, scale the perimeter fence, and waiting there is Virginia, who immediately takes them to a safe house. They hide for 2 weeks straight while the entire Gestapo is searching everywhere for them, and then she smuggles them out of the country. Okay, fast forward a month, it's November 1942, she just staged that huge...
You know, nothing big, just one woman on her own, unsupported, in a hostile country, freeing 12 people and smuggling in stuff which, you know, should have been able to be tracked by the enemy. All by herself. You know, I'm surprised people there isn't a day made after this woman. Or that, you know, she's not talked about more. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. This woman is an inspiration.
Jailbreak, all the Germans are looking for, and now the Gestapo has brought in an additional 500 men, all with the sole purpose of finding the limping lady. It is at this moment Virginia decides it's probably time to leave. But with 500 new Gestapo all looking for a woman with a limp, she can't take any of the normal ways out of the country, so the only method she has to escape is to take the Pyrenees Freedom Trail, a 50-mile hike through the Pyrenees Mountains to cross the border between France and Spain, and she has to do it in November, in the coldest winter for France in over 200 years. It is a 3 to 4 day hiking trail for people doing it for fun, not in the middle of winter, and Virginia manages to do it in 2 days with a wooden leg. During her hike, she was communicating with London via radio, not like secret spy radio, just normal radio transmissions. It wasn't going to blow her cover. She was already blown and she was leaving anyways, so it didn't really matter. And she would tell London that Cuthbert was giving her issues because I'm sure, as you can imagine, hiking with a wooden leg would get pretty tiresome after a while.
Would appear so, wouldn't it?
To which London, not knowing who Cuthbert was, responded by saying, if Cuthbert is giving you problems, have him eliminated.
Take him out.
Take him out.
So she crosses the border into Spain after...
Yeah, it's just like if Cuthbert's giving me problems, take them out. Cuthbert's my leg. Just like, yeah, no, just like, oh, you need to escape. There's no way to escape except for taking this trail, which, you know, takes 3 to 4 days for normal people with both working legs during the spring. While she's doing it in the middle of winter. Like, what the fuck? You know, I'd say they need to make a movie about her, but I'm sort of worried about how, if they try to make a movie about her in the modern times, because then they would just take her from the parts that, you know, were not... I don't know, I just feel like they'd make it into a modern hate piece, rather than cover, like, the inspirational parts about her. But yeah, also I'm also worried because if they try to make a movie, even if they did a good job, there'd be some people who'd go like, "Oh my God, woman propaganda! Of course!" And she did all this stuff on her own, because I mean, all this stuff is unbelievable. Just think about it, like how crazy all of this is. Like she had nerves of steel. But yeah.
2 days, complete badass, she has escaped the Nazis, and 48 hours after she leaves Lyon, her entire hotel room gets ransacked because the Germans finally figured out who she was, and she had escaped just in the nick of time. And then she promptly gets arrested by Spanish authorities for illegal immigration. So then she has to get a message out to London, out to America. They finally come, bail her out. She goes back to London working with the SOE, and she's like, okay, well, cool, send me back in. And they're like, no, your cover's blown. You've done all you're gonna do. That's it.
Yeah, she's... After she gets back, like, I'm ready for another round of it. And they're like, what? No, Jesus.
It for you. We're not going to let you do anything else as far as like actively working undercover goes. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but Virginia Hall basically says, okay, well, peace out, nerds. I'm going to go work with the Americans. She goes over to America, goes to the OSS, the direct predecessor of the CIA, and is like, hey, I'm more experienced than any spy you guys have. Put me in, coach. To which the OSS is like, sure, why not? And they give her a shot. This time, Virginia makes sure that she takes a wireless transmitting class, though, so now she can also send the wireless transmitting signal.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Because before she was shoved in by the British. Now she's powered by America.
She doesn't want to be the only spy not able to, like last time. So she does that. She then realizes that she's going to have to pretend to be a much older woman. This would help disguise her limp, and it would help change her face so that they didn't know what she looked like anymore. So she goes to a professional Hollywood makeup artist, learns how to do makeup to look like a really old woman, and then she goes to a dentist in London that grinds all her teeth down so she looks like she has terrible teeth, like a French peasant would. The OSS then sneaks her back into France on a PT...
The dedication this woman had. Nowadays it'd be like, let's use a prosthetic. But my God.
boat and drops her off completely by herself again. And from there, she just starts doing it all over again. She develops a huge spy network again. This time, she's posing as an elderly milkmaid by day and a spy master by night. At this point in time, the French resistance had all kinds of guerrilla fighters, but they were basically just running around blowing shit up, being as big of a nuisance as they possibly could, and weren't being strategic about it at all. So over the course of the next year and a half, Virginia set out to establish a chain of command and actually get them to work together and coordinate attacks and efforts. By 1944, she had amassed an entire army. She had 3 battalions, 1,500 guerrilla fighters that she was coordinating attacks against the Germans with from the inside. All while transmitting signals to the Americans to have them drop off supplies like guns and explosives to continue fighting with. She would then be notified that in June of 1944,
her story is crazy.
Happen, and in the weeks leading up to it, she used her guerrilla army to coordinate and sabotage major highways, railroads, communication lines, and bridges, preventing the Germans from reinforcing the right beaches in a timely fashion, potentially changing the entire course of D-Day. And somewhere around this time frame, the OSS would send in a reinforcement to help Virginia out, a young Polish operative by the name of Paul Giat. He parachuted into theater to...
Well, I told you about them Polish boys. Oh, yes. Person gets it. Yes. For those who don't know the reference about me talking about Polish boys, well, I won't talk about it in this video. I'm just going to stop there and make it sound horrible.
To have any real influence on the operation, but him and Virginia would end up falling in love. After the war, they would both move back home to America, where Paul would get his citizenship, and they would both begin their careers working for the newly found CIA. They would then go on to lead a specialized task force monitoring communism in the Eastern Bloc of Europe. Yeah, this incredible story literally ends with two spies falling in love and going out on missions together. In 1945, President Truman wanted to give Virginia the Distinguished Service Cross, the highest honor a civilian could receive, because technically spies weren't in the military, so they're ineligible for the Medal of Honor. But President Truman wanted to give this to her in a humongous ceremony, tell her story, and make her basically an international hero and celebrity. Virginia, however, declined that offer because she didn't want her cover blown. She still wanted to be operational and capable of helping the United States and the world if she was needed. She became the only female civilian of World War II to be awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, and was awarded to her by General William Donovan, and by her own request it was awarded in front of only one witness, her mom. Her future husband and fiance Paul wasn't there because she didn't think her mother would approve. This woman was behind enemy lines fighting against the Nazis for all of World War II, the entire thing, longer than probably any other American, and she's still scared of the opinions of mom. And that's it. Virginia and Paul would live happily ever after. They retired at 60 years old, and Virginia would pass away at the age of 76 in 1982. And nobody knew anything about this until they read her obituary. She never gave an interview. She never wrote a memoir. She never said a single thing. And later in life, when she was asked why she never talked about it, she said, and I quote, "Too many of my friends died for talking too much." Which I think we can all agree is gangster as fuck. So, in conclusion, this is a story of Virginia Hall, the deadliest spy of World War II. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
Like,
The fact that people know and care more about Kim Kardashian over Virginia Hall is going to piss me off probably for the rest of forever.
yeah. Actual female role model versus modern female role model. Yes. The aircraft that's basically a torpedo. It is a jet. This aircraft is a literal bomb. Oh, yeah. I just saw the thing above. Yes, that's a great image there. Well, I was going to react to things from Cass Vanderpool, but we have a very interesting image there. I can tell you most of the stuff there isn't, related to that. So, person, ignoring that, I'm very sorry. What the fuck was that image? I have never even seen that video. I don't want to see it. So, person, because I still have time left, there's when the Marines took a duck into battle in World War II, the Devil Duck. Or there's, I think I know that you want me to watch this one here. Is that a safe guess that you want to watch that? Yes. All right. Virginia Hall, Deadly Spy there, and Devil Duck. Okay. Just going to add some tags, and now it's going to. I just need to add it to my, like, I just need to add it to the thing here. There we go. All right. So, yes, when the Marines took a duck into battle in World War II, the devil duck.
This is probably the most Marine Corps story I've ever heard in my entire life, and there's absolutely no way that it's been embellished. Like a lot.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've already talked...
What do you mean? Marines or soldiers embellishing their their stories? Oh my god, that has never happened. How dare you imply that our honored servicemen would ever exaggerate that? Oh no. Why the PogChamp?
Talked about the Marine Corps' most famous animal hero, Sergeant
Indeed.
Reckless, the horse that was adopted by the Marines during the Korean War that would go on to become the hero of Outpost Vegas and the first horse to ever partake in a Marine Corps amphibious landing. But before Sergeant Reckless, the Marine Corps had another hero from the animal kingdom that partook in multiple amphibious landings in the Pacific theater of World War II. Today we're talking about Sergeant Seawash, aka the Devil Duck. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me is an online subscription service. It's a very straightforward,
I'll
simple
play the
business. You give them money, they get rid of your personal information off the internet. Okay, look, here's the deal. Somehow, some way, your personal information is on the internet. Your name, your spouse's name, your parents' name, your address, your last 5 addresses, your phone numbers, and all of your emails are all sitting in some data broker's bank, and they're selling that information for money. But the good news is that these data brokers are legally required to delete your information if you submit an opt-out request. And that's where Delete Me comes in. They will go to all the big data brokers and automatically submit opt-out requests on your behalf, and you don't have to do anything. And I know what you're thinking, because I thought the same thing. I don't want to give all my personal information to Delete Me either, because that just seems counterproductive. Okay, here's the thing with that. You don't have to give them all your private information. You can literally give them
I
your
usually
name
pick
and
videos that are
email
good,
address.
so.
You can give them more information if you want, but really all they need is your name and email, and then you come back a few days later and they just start asking you a bunch of yes or no questions. By using just your name and email, they'll search through all the data banks and figure out who you are, and they'll ask you a bunch of weird questions like, is this your dad?
I'm going to skip this
Is that
ahead
a relative?
because I'm skipping ahead because of the fact that this ad is probably no longer viable.
Is currently in New Zealand gearing up to go into combat against the Japanese in World War II. And like all great military stories, it totally happened. It begins in a bar with a bunch of Marines drinking. And as is tradition with the military drinking at a bar,
classic
there are
story
conflicting
setup.
reports as to what actually happened. According to the Marine Corps, the Marines went out to a local bar in New Zealand. They then started drinking with the locals, and they all had a great, very professional, cordial time where they all drank a very appropriate amount of alcohol, potentially even a Surgeon General recommended amount. And then none of the Marines went out and hooked up with any of the local women. And if they did, hypothetically, which they didn't, but if they did, it would have been strictly in the missionary position, and the Marines would have used protection. Now, while they were at the bar, there was also a raffle. And apparently, a bunch of the Marines bought these tickets for this raffle, and one of the Marines by the name of Sergeant Francis Fagan ended up winning the raffle. Now, the grand prize for this raffle at a bar in New Zealand was apparently a duck. And that's what the Marine Corps says happened. Now, according to the other sources, mostly the personal accounts of the Marines that were actually there, and quite frankly common sense, says that the Marines were at this local bar partying their faces off like they were about to go into the biggest armed conflict the world has ever seen, and while they were there, some of the Marines were playing poker with the locals, and the Marines apparently took all of their money, and they came back to the table, and they're like, alright, well here's my prize duck, I'm gonna put that up as a wager, and the Marine Corps ended up winning that too, and that again was Sergeant Francis Fagan, aka Pappy. Now, personally, I'm going to go ahead and err on the side of the Marines got hammered at a bar and won a duck in a poker game, and the chain of command didn't want to get in trouble for associating the Marine Corps with gambling, so they just made up some weird shit, like apparently bars in New Zealand raffle off ducks, but you can go ahead and decide to believe whatever you want. Regardless, either way, Francis Fagan, and by extension, the Marine Corps now has a duck. So what are the Marines going to do with the duck? Obviously...
We should ask Anne if it's an Australian tradition as well. I mean, New Zealand and Australia are close by. Ask her if she can win a duck in a lottery.
They take it under their wing.
I'd like to apologize to the internet for making you a dad.
I mean, to be fair, that is true. I kind of turned her into a bodybuilder for like 18 months between the 2 kids.
Wow.
Oh, well, I mean,
In
yes.
history time. Sorry about that. Anyways, the Marines pretty much immediately teach this duck how to drink beer, which I know what you're thinking, that's probably not very healthy for the duck, but to be fair, there are worse vices to have. I mean, he could get addicted to quack. I'm sorry. I'm done. Okay, I'm done with the dad jokes. That joke was foul. Anyways, they become drinking buddies with this duck. He becomes one of the Marines, and then time comes for them to all go off to war and actually engage with the Japanese. Sure enough, they take the duck with them. Fast forward November 1943, the Battle of Tarawa. It's one of the bloodiest battles in Marine Corps history. Essentially, the Japanese have 4,000 soldiers dug in and heavily fortified on the Tarawa Atoll, and the Marines have to go in there and take them out. Now, what's unique about Tarawa is it is surrounded by coral reefs, and what that means is any traditional landing craft that Americans would use, like a Higgins boat, similar to what we used over in the European theater, would get hung up on these coral reefs, and the Japanese would be able to spray it with machine gun fire and artillery and mortars and kill absolutely everybody. The Japanese were so confident in these coral reefs and their fortified defenses that Admiral Shimasaki said that it would take 1,000,000 men 100 years to take Tarawa. But he didn't know that the Marine Corps had...
Yeah, he really didn't know. Like, of course, the Japanese were also like, if we destroy their fleets, it'll take them years to retaliate. And as Fat Electrician normally says, don't mess with America's boats. Also, I know a little bit about this story as well. I don't think you're going to foresee what happens with this story. But anyways, let's just
the LVT,
continue.
the Landing Vehicle Tracked, aka the amphibious tractor. Similar to a Higgins boat, except it had tracks on it, and then when it hit the coral reefs, it would simply drive right over the top of them. So November 20th, 1943, at 3 a.m., under the cover of darkness, 18,000 Marines and one duck would load into their salamander tractors as they prepared to launch their amphibious landing at the quack of dawn. As dawn broke, the Japanese soldiers watched in horror as the landing crafts did not get hung up on the reefs, but simply drove right over the top of them. The only surviving Japanese officer from this battle, Kiyoshi Ota, would later go on to write, "We could see the American landing craft coming towards us like dozens of spiders over the surface of the water, as one of my men exclaimed, 'The gods of death have come.'" As the Marines reached the beach, they would become pinned down from heavy machine gun, artillery, and mortar fire. They were only able to secure the first 70 yards.
That's most certainly an image to think about.
Of the beach after hours of combat. It is at this point that the Marines' front line was charged by an enemy rooster, and Sergeant Seawash charged past the Marine line to meet the chicken in winged combat in the middle of the battlefield. After sustaining several pecks to the head, Seawash was able to repel the enemy ambush and save his fellow Marines. The Marines would then go on in the following days to completely take over the island. The Japanese believed that it would take 1,000,000 men 100 years. In reality, it took 18,000 Marines and one devil duck 72 hours. For sustaining multiple peck wounds on the battlefield, the Marines tried to get Seawash the Purple Heart. Unfortunately, that wasn't going to work out, but the chain of command still cited Seawash for bravery on the battlefield. That citation, written by Lieutenant Colonel Presley M. Brexley, is as follows: "For courageous action and wounds received on Tarawa..."
Yeah, they actually made a cartoon. "For courageous action and wounds received at Tarawa, with utter disregard for his personal safety, Seawash, on reaching the beach without hesitation, engaged the enemy in fierce combat, namely, one rooster of Jap ancestry. Although wounded on the head by repeated pecks, he routed the opposition. He refused medical aid until all wounded members of his crew had been cared for." And it's just like, yeah, absolutely great.
In the Gilbert Islands, November 1943, with utter disregard for his own personal safety, Seawash, upon reaching the beach without hesitation, engaged the enemy in fierce combat, namely one rooster of Japanese ancestry, and though wounded on the head by repeated pecks, he soon routed his opposition. He then refused medical aid until all wounded members of his section had been taken care of first. Seawash and his fellow Marines would then see battle again at the Battle of Saipan, also known as the D-Day of the Pacific. However, allegedly due to some intel, there would be be no enemy poultry on the beach, so Seawash's services were no longer needed, and he would remain on the boat for the initial 3 days of the battle. After that, he would go ashore and support his fellow Marines. At the conclusion of the Battle of Saipan, the Marines had gained valuable intel regarding the neighboring island of Tinian, and they would immediately launch another attack to gain that island as well, and this time, the Devil Duck would partake in the amphibious landing. From there, he would identify an enemy duck that he would engage in build combat until forcing it to finally retreat. A couple of days after that, the Marines would take the island entirely, and shortly after that, Sergeant Seawash would lay an egg. Apparently, Seawash and the other duck I mentioned a minute ago were doing a little bit more than just fighting. Either way, at this point, the Marines now realize that Sergeant Seawash is in fact a girl, to which they're like,
A woman. Treacherous snake.
just kidding, they didn't actually care. In reality, they were probably giving each other a hard time, like, alright, who did it? Fess up. Tania would be the last time that Sergeant Seawash ever saw combat. After World War II, she would end up getting sent back home to America with her fellow Marines and her primary caretaker, Francis Fagan. From there, the story of Sergeant Seawash picked up traction, being in Time magazine, having multiple
Yes, indeed. I did actually plan out to play 2 female icons of World War II. This was a female propaganda video. Yes, indeed. But actually, what did the little article say?
Francis Fagan. From there, the story of Sergeant Seawash picked up traction, being in Time magazine,
Seawash, a duck, is a mascot of the 1st Battalion of the 10th Marines. A year ago, he attached himself... Excuse me, you're misgendering that... I'm sorry about that. To that battalion that has been with... Let's see. Battalion that has been with it ever since. At Tarawa, Seawash landed on the beach under fire and was cited as follows: for courageous action and wounds received on Tarawa in the Gilbert Island. Well, I can't read the rest of it, but you know, just I guess it's the same thing as before.
having multiple radio appearances,
Yes.
being in a bunch of different.
Oh my God,
we need the harrowing story.
We need to cancel the person who wrote that article. Oh my God. They're probably not even still alive. But yeah.
Of America's one and only devil duck. And while all that's going on, she is partying her bill off with her Marines, drinking beer after beer while also helping the Marines hit on young women. And I actually believe this to be the first historical appearance of the term wingman being used in relation to picking up women. Okay, I mean, look at this. Fagan and Seawash have more game than an Xbox. That man's about to get more than an animal shelter. Over the next couple months, the publicity would die down and Francis Fagan would go on to become an electrician. And his great-grandson would also go on to become an electrician that had a pretty decent-sized YouTube channel. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not related to this guy. Anyways, Sergeant Seawash would also then go to
that'd be
the
crazy,
farm
though.
for an extended period of time until being called back into duty during the Korean War, where she helped with recruiting efforts. After that, she would finally retire to live out the rest of her days in the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago before passing away in 1953.
Seawash dies in zoo 11 years after she joined the Marine. It's the same exact article, too. Give Roosevelt College a...
Due to liver complications.
Yes. Oh, how could this duck possibly develop liver complications? Certainly it had nothing to do with all the beer it consumed. Oh yeah. Veterans said it had no connection with Seawash's fondness for beers. For beer.
Which prompted the Marines to release a statement saying that there is no reason to believe that her liver complications were due to her excessive amount of drinking during her time in service. According to multiple newspapers, her funeral service was then held in a taxidermy shop where she was then stuffed and currently resides in the National Museum of the Marine Corps in Triangle, Virginia. So in conclusion, this has been the totally
I am still surprised that there is a place called Triangle, Virginia. Though at the same time, I guess there is a Hell, Texas. So, you know, that's on the Bible Belt, living in a place literally called hell. That is, I don't know, kind of
real, 100% not embellished whatsoever story of Sergeant Seawash, aka America's Devil Duck. That time the Marine Corps won a duck in a poker game, taught it how to drink beer, then took it to multiple amphibious landings in the deadliest battles of World War II, kept it alive the entire time to bring it back home so they could use it to hit on women, and I think it is the most Marine Corps thing that has ever happened, and if I'm wrong, you can tell me down below, and if your story's better, I'll do a video on that too. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com.
We found it.
Quack bang out.
Nothing, no little comment at the end? Okay, well, I don't know if I have enough time to watch Sergeant Reckless. It's not because, I mean, I have time. Why does this image keep coming? God damn it. Why a picture of a minion coming out of Shrek's ass? Why? Why? My God. Well, I'll react to another one. Since this is this one, I'm sorry, the next one is not a female propaganda one. Wait, person, I have showed you the Band of Beavers, right? Oh yeah, that guy's animation is good. I have showed you Band of Beavers, so I guess I won't cover that. And 2 people left. I'll look for another short one. Doom Turtle's a possibility. The USS No-Go, the invincible concrete battleship. 43 mailmen fight the Germans, the first battle of World War II. Angry old veteran. Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to. If you would want to see a propaganda thing. Or World War III, Operation Paul Bunyan. I don't know. The ones I think you'd like are might be too long. Because the last time I tried watching a half an hour plus video on this, I ended up taking like an hour, over an hour to do. And you know, I don't have that much time. Oh, there's some. The chicken-powered nuclear landmine. Is that something you'd be interested in, or would you rather learn about... Okay, I'm keeping this video fun, so I'm going to cover the ice cream ships.
Oh boy, this video's...
Because that's a lot more fun and doesn't have negative connotation. 1 second, I'm going to just... Okay. No. All right. Need to add ice cream. Limping lady. Second. Sorry about that. Just want to make sure I properly name this video. Ice cream. Okay, there we go. Oh, it is only bean flavored. Don't you know we had to accommodate the British? Or, well, oh, you remembered about the red bean. Yes, red bean is tasty. Also, technically, coffee ice cream would also be bean flavored. But yes.
Oh boy, this video is going to be aggressive.
What?
Today we're talking about the biggest logistical flex of all time, the sheer amount of ice cream the U.S. military managed to eat in World War II. Buckle up, because it's going to get weird. In 1943, the U.S. military managed to eat 135 million pounds of ice cream. I don't know how you guys want to quantify that, like elephant meters or kilo-elephants. It's 10,384. Write that down. Moving on. Hey, real quick, this video is brought to you by my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got over 30 retail locations across the U.S. and an even better online store
I've
that
never
offers
heard of
price matching and...
Never heard of Shields. I think it's something. Explain what? What do I need to explain, person? Ice cream ships, or why people ate so much ice cream back then. He's going to explain that, so I'll shut up and let you listen.
Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. So if you need anything from camping gear to sporting goods to casual...
Personally, I prefer dicks. Now that I've let that sink in. Oh, person, are you familiar with Dick's Sporting Goods? Oh, yes, you know, some people here love Dick's. Okay, now I need, okay. 1 second, before, we will get to the ice cream video very shortly. I just need to show this so people don't think I'm a weirdo. I mean, I am. 1 second. Dick's Sporting Goods, not now, is an American chain of sporting goods founded in 1948 by Richard Dick Stack. His name is literally Dick Stack. This company was built by a stack of dicks. For those who don't know, Dick is a abbreviation of the name Richard. So Richard Hertz would be literally Dick Hertz, but yeah, no. So this man is literally Dick Stack. It's the largest sporting good retailer in the United States and is listed on the Fortune 500. Some of them you can buy guns from. America, America. Sorry. America. I'm going to play the video now.
clothes to work clothes, make sure to go check out Shields in person, or I'll have their link in the description down below. Back to the video. Why on earth was the American military eating so much ice cream? Couple of reasons. Reason number one, America, because America's always number one and we can. Buh! You're so dumb. America's not number one and the metric system's better. Buh! Okay, look, first of all, you're ruining my story. Second of all, I have...
Well, you know, certain terms are different, and certain things, you know, like saying you were gay was not a bad thing in the past. When people, more recently it's no longer bad, but originally being gay just meant being happy. There was an actual name people could have was Gaylord. Because, you know, it's like the Lord of Happiness. Absolutely. Well, you name your kid that because you wanted them to have a happy life. Why wouldn't you want your kid to be named Gaylord? Somebody named their kid that more recently, and then when years ago they named their kid that, and then their kid sued their parents after getting that. Yeah. Oh yes. Indeed. But now I should continue the ice cream thing.
I have no idea what the metric system's doing for you, but I do know the only reason you're not doing it while speaking German is because of America and fractions, so show some respect. As I was saying, reason number two, it's complicated. You see, it all started on January 17th, 1920, when the 18th Amendment went into effect and America would begin the Noble Experiment, aka Prohibition. Alcohol's banned across all of the US. Because of this, pretty much overnight, all the bars in America turned into ice cream parlors rather than go out of business, and ice cream stepped up to fill the social void left by alcohol. If you're not picking up on a put down, I'm trying to tell you that ice cream is essentially the new booze. And I know what you're thinking, why on earth would the American government ban alcohol? It's the land of the free, the home of the brave, and now you can't even enjoy a beer? That doesn't make any sense. But apparently America had a severe drinking problem back then, so the government had to step up and ban alcohol because they care about our health. Right. And then to prove how much they cared about our health, once people
Well, yes, because people nowadays use that term as an insult.
naturally started making their own booze at home using industrial alcohol, they started mandating to all the manufacturers of industrial alcohol that they had to put methyl alcohol inside of it, which is poisonous to people, which as a result led to over 10,000 Americans being poisoned to death during Prohibition by their own government because the government wanted to make them healthy.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Ah, yes, Ronald Reagan. Ah, yes, that douche.
The silver lining because
Ah, yes, because you've heard of NASCAR, right?
Because Prohibition's how we got NASCAR, with a bunch of rednecks hopping up their cars so they could outrun cops. And then naturally they wanted to see if they could outrun each other, and bada bing, bada boom, NASCAR's born. A lot of left turns. Anyways, the point I'm trying to get across to you is the majority of the people that served in World War II grew up in an era where their alcohol was ice cream. Meaning that they're gonna do all the ridiculous shit that military members do for alcohol, but they're gonna do it for ice cream. I mean, during the Korean War, the Seabees stole a train full of booze, and during World War II in 1942, when the USS Lexington, an aircraft carrier, got sank by 2 torpedoes, while the ship was sinking, the crew decided that it was very important that they raided the mess hall first to take all the ice cream with them. They were literally sitting in life rafts eating ice cream out of their helmets. The crews for B-17 and B-24 bombers used to take ice cream mix, put it inside of ammo cans, and then stick it inside the ball turrets when they went on a bombing run, because then if they made it back after successfully bombing the enemy, the ball turret got cold enough and there was enough turbulence.
Discovered that attaching a tube to the rear gunner's compartment allowed for it to stay cold enough, and had the added benefit of churning it from the vibrations of the machine gun fire. Isn't that crazy? Well, you know, Grandpa had to innovate. And the rear, yes, the rear gunner's compartment, indeed. Yes, person, it was chocolate. If you really had to know. But the forbidden chocolate. Sorry about that. But no. Yeah. And also, in case you missed it, NASCAR was created by people who were, you know, illegally selling alcohol, just running to different places. And going like, my car's probably faster than yours, so NASCAR was created. As he said, lots of left turns.
That it would both chill and churn the ice cream, so then they had fresh ice cream afterwards. There were literally mobile ice cream factories that would follow the front line just behind it and deliver fresh ice cream to the front line every day. And then we get to the absolute pinnacle of logistical flexing, the ice cream ships of World War II. Yeah, the Navy had 3 of these things. They could make 500 gallons of ice cream a day. They had enough refrigerated storage to hold 2,000 gallons, and their entire job was to make ice cream and deliver it around the Pacific Theater. Now, to be fair, it's technically not a ship. It was a concrete barge. If you don't know the difference, a barge doesn't move under its own power. It's basically got to be pulled around by tugboats. Also, when I say concrete barge, a lot of people seem to misinterpret it and think that it was a barge that was used for mixing concrete, and then they retrofitted it to make ice cream instead. That's not what happened. It's literally made out of concrete. During World War II, pretty much everything was being rationed, and the US military experimented with making boats and barges out of concrete, like the USS Quartz was completely made out of concrete. And then later, after they determined that the barges sucked, the US Navy took 3 of them, spent $1 million on each, retrofitted it into an ice cream factory. And not only is this the biggest logistical flex of all time, it very well may be the biggest morale changing factor ever. I mean, think about this. It is 1945, and these guys are eating a frozen dairy treat 2,000 miles from home, and the enemy is literally 15 miles from home, and they can't get food. Do you have any...
All of this is in the tropics, where, you know, it's burning hot and all that stuff. Oh, yeah. Knife placement. Oh, come on. It's not that bad.
Miles from home, and the enemy is literally 15 miles from home, and they can't get food. Do you have any idea what effect it would have on your morale if you were the bad guy in World War II and you haven't eaten in 3 days, but it's okay because you have a superior warrior culture and your team's gonna pull through and you're gonna win because go team, you guys got this. And then the Americans come over the hill with flamethrowers and fucking ice cream cones. Maybe, just maybe, you're on the wrong side of this argument. That's like the Star-Spangled Darth Vader, okay? Come to the red, white, and blue side, we've got fucking ice cream. So in conclusion, booze and ice cream are on the same level of awesome. And next time you go out to a restaurant, you see that little old man with the black hat on the front that says he's a veteran eating ice cream out of a little dish for dessert. You know what's up. Thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
Yeah, the Fat Electrician covers so many interesting stories. Like, let's see. Oh yeah. There was that time, like, where they literally dropped a toilet on somebody. I forgot about all of it, but... Okay. Before that, I'm going to cover this other one, which is also funny. Because this one is funny, though you might not know because you might not be old enough to know about the game series. Or you might, but I don't know. 1 second. I'm sort of wondering why I didn't just play a longer video. Okay. All right. So, yes. This is a fun, short video. It also doesn't involve listening about people dying or things like that. Which, you know. Let's go.
By popular demand after this tweet went viral on the internet, today we're talking about that time that 8 Marines went toe-to-toe against DARPA's artificial intelligence in an epic battle of wits and won.
Inconceivable.
Okay, so here's the deal. That tweet is a picture of half a page from a book that hasn't even come out yet. That book is For Battlegrounds by Paul Scher, and it comes out next month, February 2023. And I actually reached out and got a hold of Paul to get the whole story, and here's what I found out. Once upon a time in 2019, DARPA had a program known as Squad X. The overall goal of this program was to be able to integrate an autonomous AI with an infantry unit, RoboGrunt. They wanted to make RoboGrunt. Basically, they were going to take an artificial intelligence, shove it inside of a flying drone or a little car drone or inside of a robot dog, and it was going to follow the grunts out into battle and act as an early warning system. Using cameras and sensors, it would be able to identify enemies from way further out than a human ever could. Not a terrible idea. So DARPA got to work, they built the robots, they built the AI, but then they actually had to train the AI how to identify people. And apparently the best way to do this was by just actually doing it. So they brought in 8 Marines for a week to help train this artificial intelligence. And for the first 6 days, it went great. Basically, the AI just watched the Marines walk around and do things a human would do, while the computer engineers helped teach the algorithm what it was looking at. But then on the 7th day, DARPA would make a class.
And God bless the 7th day and declared it holy, because it was the day the Marines outsmarted the fancy schmancy AI with childhood tactics.
Tactical error by challenging the Marines. Apparently, with only 6 days of training, they wanted to see how well their artificial intelligence would stack up against the Marine Corps' 100% organic cran-fed fuckery. I'm gonna give you a hint, it didn't go well. The challenge...
Yes, the American tradition of Marines eating crayons. It's a joke. It's because the Marines are known to be very tough, but they're also not necessarily known for being, well, you know, the brightest in academic smarts, which is why all the other, like, branches of the military say they eat crayons. Which the Marines also take along as well, because, you know, they joke. But yeah, the Marines often have a lower budget than everyone else. However, their uniform budget is far higher. That's why Marines tend to have really nice looking uniforms.
Was they were going to set the robot up out in the open, and the Marines had to start from like 1,000 yards away, and they had to sneak up on the robot and touch it without ever being identified as a human. As soon as they said go, the first 2 Marines took off doing somersaults for the entire 1,000 yards. They made it all the way to the robot completely unidentified. And I can only assume that it is at this point that the computer engineers realized that they were going to have a bad day, because it only got more ridiculous from there. Another Marine went out in the woods, stripped all the branches off of a fir tree, dressed himself up like a tree, and then slowly, and I quote, walked like a fir tree all the way to the robot. And then my personal favorite example, 2 Marines found a large box and then proceeded to do the old Metal Gear Solid trick where they use the Amazon Prime print camouflage to sneak all the way up to the robot and touch it. According to the author, you could actually hear them audibly giggling from inside the box the entire time. And this raises one very important question. How mad were these engineers? So I asked the author.
Well, in this case, I mean, it's a DARPA project, so it's just experimental, and they're trying to push the bounds. I don't know, I can't speak to the engineers. I mean, they might not have appreciated, maybe they did appreciate someone highlighting these problems. The program manager who relayed the anecdote to me was really pleased because they learned something, right? They learned about the limitations of the system, and you'd really much rather find that out in a training environment than when you do it overseas in a war zone and the enemy does it. But, you know, it's good that they found it out early rather than before they'd invested hundreds of millions of dollars into this.
Okay,
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
Well, if he's not going to speak for the engineers, that leaves it open to my interpretation, and I think it went something like this.
I hate them.
In conclusion, I think the big takeaway from this story is that artificial intelligence is nowhere near ready to go toe-to-toe with the American grunt on the battlefield. Because regardless of how smart it is or how smart it gets, it's never going to be able to figure out what the grunts are doing until
Yeah.
they're already doing it. Because the grunts don't know what they're doing until they're doing it. And you can't be 3 steps ahead of somebody that never knows where they're going. Because at the end of the day, historically speaking, the American military's only ever had one plan, and that's to show up and improvise.
Yep, that is their saying. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Semper Fi.
If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for
I
watching.
mean, that doesn't, Semper Fi doesn't mean that, but, you know, that's, whatever.
Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Okay, so there's no additional stuff after this one. There's just so much stuff here, which is like, that could be interesting to cover. Well, so, did you know that the plane that people tend to love talking about, the A-10 Warthog, is going to probably be replaced by a crop duster? A crop duster. The A-10 Warthog is a aircraft which can be stated to be a gun with a plane as an accessory. Okay, I guess I'll play that then. And since this is a short video, I will not update Twitter, because otherwise people would just be like, oh, he's reacting to another new thing. These are all really short videos.
Today we're talking about my new favorite plane. Yeah, it actually beat out the A-10 Warthog. Which is impressive because the A...
That farting noise was the sound of the A-10 firing its very, very large gun.
A-10 is literally just a gun with wings. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to present to you the Sky Warden. Yeah, that is an up-armored crop duster with rocket launchers on it. It looks like somebody maxed out the starter item in a video game. It's actually an Air Tractor 802 if you wanted to get technical. Uncle Sam just ordered 75 of them to the tune of $3 billion. Alright, so what does a $40 million crop duster get you? Well, it's got bulletproof windows, a heavily armored cab and engine compartment, self-healing fuel lines, the ability to jettison all of its fuel if need be, reinforced landing gear allowing you to land virtually anywhere, and it is absolutely packed with ISR equipment. ISR is an acronym which stands for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, basically making this a spy plane.
Ah, yes, the spy crop duster.
I mean, just look at the inside of this phallic excavation. Wait. I mean, prick indentation. No. Cockpit. Sorry. Despite its reconnaissance capabilities, it's
Yes,
also
indeed.
capable of carrying a 6,000
Ah, yes, this pit of cock. Indeed, yes. Yes, totally. Ah.
pound payload. And while the loadouts may vary, the standard payload is currently set to be 14 APKWS laser-guided Hydra rockets. Yes, these are the same ones we already talked about in the vampire video. I'm trying to tell you it's basically an acoustic version of an F-22. But that still raises a question, why do we need an acoustic F-22? This is primarily going to end up being used by special forces. The advantages to that are it can land virtually anywhere, and it actually has a 6-hour loiter time. So if there's a special operation going on, the Sky Warden can just do donuts around the potential battlefield for up to 6 hours, providing valuable intel through its ISR equipment, or yeeting the spicy toothpicks at people if necessary. To put that loiter
Oh,
time
yes,
into
spicy
perspective, the A-10 A-10 Warthog, probably the most used ground attack plane in the last 3 decades, only has a loiter time of 1.5 hours. And the Sky...
Yes, and it also has it's also horribly, horribly inaccurate. The A-10 Warthog, the spread of its gun is basically... Now, I know American units can be hard for Europeans to understand, so I'll just put it this way. You know how big a bus is, right? A regular bus, and at the average size and length of a normal bus. You take 2 of them, put them end to end. That is the area in which the bullets of the A-10 Warthog's supposed anti-tank rounds fired from its gun will hit. An area basically that is the length of those 2 things. Now, as you can imagine, that is quite terrible for people who are on your side calling in air support. And and the study which showed that was during a test flight where they didn't need to do things like avoid enemy fire or, we were just shooting at standard targets. They got to fly up directly on the target they were aiming for, perfectly line it up, take their time, and then they fired in short, controlled bursts, which, is just like you hold down the button a little bit, let go, so that way their shots are as accurate as possible. Now, as you can understand, people who fly this plane tend to not fire in short, controlled bursts. They just go like during the entire time, firing the gun as long as they can. Fun fact about this gun: the recoil from each shot is so strong that if you fire this gun too long, the aircraft will stall, which basically means it will no longer be able to fly and will start to plummet towards the earth, because it's literally starting to generate more force than the engines powering it. But yeah, I won't cover some other things about it. It's just, we need to get rid of it, especially if we're going to fight near-peer enemies. The A-10 Warthog is great when you're fighting a bunch of people who don't really have any sort of infrastructure or way to shoot it down, but it is horribly outdated.
Warden is also unimaginably cheap compared to literally anything else. For example, with the A-10 again, the A-10 is also considered very cheap, and for every hour the A-10 is in the air, there's...
Well, correction, it was very cheap to make, because originally it didn't require any advanced equipment, but because... Now, here's some more slander for the A-10. In the past, since the A-10 didn't have any advanced electronics, if you wanted to figure out what your target was, you would have to take out binoculars and look through them while flying. This is also a single pilot aircraft. So while you're trying to fly the aircraft, you have to take out binoculars, look at a target, and be able to figure out whether or not you should fire at the target. Now, as you can imagine, doing that with a gun which has that inaccurate of a range, or that big of a spread, is kind of bad. And after they started taking number of the amount of friendly fire committed by this aircraft, which was done decades after it entered service, and I don't mean they did it from the beginning, they only started taking numbers decades after it had already been in battle, people were like, this aircraft has the most friendly fire accounts out of any other vehicle in the entire U.S. Air Force. So then people were like, okay, now we need to put advanced electronics into the A-10 Warthog so we don't we can at least reduce the chances of shooting our own people. And now it's no longer quite as cheap. The cost of a single A10 Warthog, the upgrade package for the A10 Warthog, is the same as buying an F-35. And even then, I don't know if it can operate at night. Because you can imagine, when you have to literally pull out binoculars to see where you're firing, you can't really operate at night very well. But people like this aircraft because big gun go brrr. But no, it has problems. The main reason why it hasn't been shot down more often is because basically you're firing against a bunch of guys who the most advanced thing they have is an RPG. Which, you know, that's unguided. So, you know, when you're facing a bunch of people who don't really have much resources, then yes, indeed. Technically, if you were fighting against people who didn't have guns, you could beat them using a musket if you were firing it from the air. Yes, but that doesn't mean a musket would be a good thing to have.
$20,000 in maintenance to be done. Compare that to the Sky Warden, which is less than $1,000 per flight hour. I'm trying to tell you that aerial ass whoopings do not get any cheaper than this right here. So why do I like it more than the A10? Because it's a fucking crop duster, that's why. Do you understand the level of disrespect that goes with that? The amount of psychological harm to the enemy. Nobody wants to be the guy getting murked by a plane with a propeller in 2022. Like, if you wake up dead and you gotta explain to all your buddies in the afterlife you got taken out by an A10 Warthog, that's respectable. You tell them you got taken out by a crop duster, they're gonna talk shit for the rest of eternity. Hey guys, you hear that Groot over here got taken out by the fucking Wright brothers? In conclusion, it is my official prediction that this airplane will become one of the most feared and beloved aircrafts in the American arsenal. Similar to the Killer Egg, which at the end of the day is just a sightseeing helicopter that we covered in guns. Because at the end of the day, keeping it simple just works. I don't know what else to tell you. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Ah, yes. I mean, it's already, like, a fun thing with, like, how, like, not everything in the American military is made overly expensive. It's just that 90% of it is. Ah, the Davy Crockett. The weapon that appeared in Metal Gear Solid that people thought was a joke. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm playing this one as well.
Today we're talking about Norway's VIP. That's very important penguin. We already talked about Wojtek, the Polish artillery bear that retired at the Edinburgh Zoo in Scotland. Well, Wojtek was not the only military celebrity
I'll
from
cover
the
that
animal
one
kingdom
next
to
if
call
we
the
have time.
Edinburgh Zoo his home. In
I'll be right
fact,
back,
he was
quickly.
outranked. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Brigadier Sir Nils Olav III. Yeah, sir, as in he was knighted by King Harald V of Norway in 2008 to be exact. He is also the commander-in-chief of the Norwegian Kingsguard. Like, if you want to try to overthrow Norway, this is the final boss you have to fight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to tell you that this is the real Winter Soldier, and here is his origin story. 1972, the Norwegian Kingsguard went to the Edinburgh Zoo, and that is when they set their eyes on the king penguin and said, holy shit, it looks just like us. Black and white uniform, excellent posture, perfect marching skills. We want one. So they adopted a king penguin, gave it the name Nils Olav, and awarded it the rank of Lance Corporal. Now, despite being part of the military, Nils, or the goodest sir, if you will, would actually remain at the zoo and hold down the fort. Every time the Kingsguard returned, he was awarded more and more rank. And when Nils Olav I would pass away, a successor would be named and he would be awarded his name, rank, and titles to carry on the legacy. And this pattern would carry on until modern day, resulting in Brigadier Sir Nils Olav III, Commander-in-Chief of the Norwegian Kingsguard. If this keeps going, I wonder if they're gonna name him King at some point. The world's first king penguin.
Okay then, I'll remain in charge.
King squared penguin, if you will. All right, let's have a moment of honesty.
Yes.
Probably not what we were hoping for. I don't know about you, but I heard Penguin Night and I got visions of like a penguin storming trenches in World War I. Instead, I got a penguin that lives at a fucking zoo. It's cute, it's just not nearly as badass as I'd hoped. But then I noticed something. Here's some footage of Nils Olav doing the Conor McGregor walk while inspecting his men.
Here, keep your mouth shut here. Never speak about me.
Pretty funny, right? The Penguin's impersonating Conor McGregor. Wrong. Then you realize that footage is from 2008, which means Conor McGregor's been doing the Nils Olaf walk all along. The Gotham jaywalk, if you will. So why would one of the most famous MMA fighters of all time imitate this penguin? I'll tell you why. You ever heard of the fight or flight response? Yeah, this is a flightless fucking bird. He doesn't have that. He's got the win or die response, and the motherfucker's still here. And if the science behind that doesn't persuade you, let's look at history. Australia declared war on flightless birds twice and lost. Twice. And that's not me saying the Australian military isn't good. They're fantastic. Which means the only logical conclusion is flightless birds are gangster as fuck. Buh, that's so stupid. There's zero historical accounts of a person being killed by a penguin. Buh. Yeah, you're right, and that should fucking terrify you. That means there's only two options. Either it doesn't happen, or there's no survivors and no evidence. I'm trying to tell you this is one of two things. It is either the most badass animal mascot on the planet, or the least badass animal mascot on the planet, and either way, I would argue that it is the most dangerous. Because if it is secretly a badass, you're gonna go down in history as the only guy to get clapped by a penguin, which is just not acceptable for anybody that doesn't identify as a bat. And if it is in fact just an adorable flightless bird and you fuck with it, not only are you going to have to explain that to every grunt in Norway, but probably NATO as a whole. You think messing with Doc is bad? There's a lot of Docs in NATO. There's only one fucking penguin. In conclusion, the goodest sir is either the deadliest animal mascot of all time or the fastest way on the planet to figure out that it's never a war crime the first time. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at the Fat Electrician.
Guy tries to feed a penguin. The penguin's just like, nah, I ain't having any of that. That was probably the king. But yeah. Nuke the moon. The B-1. The B-1 bomber. Also known as the Bone. Did you know that there was somebody who tried to get the military to make a certain variant of the B-1? The B-1R? So it would have been the boner. So stupid, but yeah. There, it's just like, hi, oh, and you're here too. It says oh, now it's saying I have 3 people. And I don't know how long you've been here, Anne. But yes, the B-1 or the Bone is a certain kind, it's a type of bomber that we have in America. Once again, Anne, you came at an interesting time. Just literally when I was like... Yes, I was talking about this bomber, which it's called the Bone because it's the B-1. And somebody made wanted to make a variant of it, which would be referred to as the B-1R. R is for radar. And of course, because of how they say it, it would be the B-1, it would be the boner. And you missed an interesting video. I covered stuff like the devil duck, which is, you know, the duck that's served with the Marine Corps, the, you know, the limping lady, ice cream ships, and a bunch of other stuff. Also, you missed the time where they're replacing an American warplane with a crop duster. This has been a very interesting video. Sorry. Oh well. I miss you too, it's been so long. I mean, I saw you yesterday, but I mean, we didn't really talk much yesterday. I've been covering most of the fun videos which don't have, you know, like a negative connotation. Now I'm looking to see if I can find the one about that bear. Okay. 1 second. Oop, not Paper Skies. I guess where is that bear? Literally a story of a bear that got raised in the military. I'll just, let's see, put it this way. Okay, wait. Oop. No, damn it. Fat Electrician. bear. Ah. Cool. Oh, I haven't seen the Arizona T one. He also covers interesting. Wait, why isn't it? Did they get rid of it? It should have had. What in the world? Take two. Where is the video on the bear? And what is up with these weird things there? 7 p.m. Hey, it's nice to take a shower before, going to bed sometimes. I mean, bathing, what's that? Oh, no, as a man, I'm supposed to never do that. Ah, yes. The de Havilland mosquito. So, how does making a plane out of wood and then it unintentionally becoming very, very effective sound? I mean, I don't have time to play it. But I'll put this here. The chicken-powered nuclear landmine, which, that's another interesting thing. Well, it depends how hot it is and how much you sweat. If you're like sweating heavily every day, then I'm going to judge you. But if you're like, I've been inside in an air-conditioned area and I've not moved around much, then that's okay. But if it's just like, the flies are following you, oh God. Because when you have a coworker in a bakery and there are flies following them, that's it's time for them to bathe. Oh my. What did that remind you of? I'm scared to hear what that would reminded you. And where is the bear? Looks like animals. Is it other animals? Why is it like this? Did that bear video get canceled or something? Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. Are you allergic to cologne as well? You might want to find out, because if you ever go on a date with someone, you might want to make sure that they don't apply. Are you allergic to it just being applied to your skin, or are you allergic to coming too close to it? And is it to all types of perfume, or is it just certain types?
In 1941, the
Okay, well that's good, because that means if you ever come across somebody who tends to apply too much perfume to themselves, that you're not going to go into like anaphylactic shock. I guess I'll watch this as a continuation of the cute things I've been covering. Now, where is it? Where did it go? Oh, there it is.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I try very hard not to be controversial on my page. It's because of that I intentionally avoid comparing branches of the military or military jobs against one another. That being said, today we're reviewing the most badass member of the military. Period. This unit is the closest thing that America has to a Spartan warrior. They are quite literally selected at birth. Their service is not voluntary, and not a single one has ever complained. And no, we're not talking about Steve. We're talking about WMDs. The military working dog. The Maligators. The most common breeds are the Belgian Malinois, the German Shepherd, and the Dutch Shepherd.
Your
However,
chat?
the Navy prefers to
What?
use the Jack Russell Terrier for its smaller stature and added for.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, but yeah. Yeah. Like, it's too bad. I've seen the, like, last time we came on, I did see the bonsai Lego that you showed me that you had. I think there's a pink there's a pink one, or pink leafed version, and there's a normal, like, green leaf version. Which one do you think you'll make? Sorry about that. I'm a bad content creator. I'm not engaging with my chatters. I'm sorry about that. But yeah.
ferociousness, which comes in handy in small spaces like ships.
From Kmart.
Make no mistake, while he's still man's best friend and he's fucking adorable, this fur musket is loaded at all times. The minute Steve over here gives the order, this 70-pound fur missile is coming at you at 48 kilometers an hour. What the fuck is a kilometer? Hold on, I'll convert it to freedom units. Give me a second. Okay, I googled it. It's 30 miles an hour. I don't give a shit if metrics easier. If it's not good enough to land on the moon first, it's not good enough for my goddamn TikTok page. Sorry about that. Back to the goodest boys. It's this moment, right here, that I think determines that the military working dog is the most badass military unit on the face of the planet. While there's plenty of badass men and women in the armed forces, there is something truly fucking exceptional about taking out the enemy using nothing but your goddamn face. It's probably the one thing cooler than the MRE spoon. That being said, I'm always willing to be proved wrong.
Yeah.
Do you think you've got what it takes to run at the enemy head on at the speed of Mach fuck and take the title from this guy? Show me the footage. Okay, fine, we'll still talk about Steve. Now, as you can see, Steve over here is in the Air Force, and he's got the SF on his shoulder, which means he's in the security forces. Which means that while Steve might not take down the enemy with his face, he's still kind of a badass. Who'da thunk? They're not just letting anybody fire the fur musket. Now, I've never spent a whole hell of a lot of time around these guys, but I've got to assume that they treat their dogs like grunts treat their medics. And what I mean by that is this can probably escalate to this very quickly. So in conclusion, don't fuck with
One
them.
second. Okay. Is not letting me follow the link that you gave me. Wait, is that a link that's appropriate? Oh, it should be fine. I don't think you're going to be showing me some random stuff. It's like, oh no, oh god, it's so horrible. But yes, the Kmart. Ah, yes. So, this little one here. Oh, Kmart. Kmart is in the American store. Actually, you know what? I should probably check that. Check for good. Actually, it is Kmart. Let's see, just to make sure that I don't be the dumb American. Yes. Let's see. Oh. Okay. So there is a Australian Kmart. But actually, let's see. Kmart Australia. Let's see which one is it. Oh, founded in 1969. Oh my. But the American one was founded in 1899. So, yes, indeed, a great year to start a store, if I ever heard one. Well, yes. The funny thing is, there's actually a Burger King restaurant that existed before the Burger King chain. And because of that, the Burger Kings that exist in that state,
America's good.
That state have to use a different name. Yeah. Well, I hope you get rid of it. Is it a fruit fly or is it a different type? At least it's not like a horse fly. Well, here's the thing. Does it bite you? And is it very big? Yes, there are flies that don't fly. But they are, if I remember correctly. But yeah, horse flies are not great. They tend to live in hot areas. They bite people. And they, you know when you're being bitten by a horsefly. Well, in that case, it's probably a flute fly. A flute fly? Yes, it plays the flute. It is known for that. Yes, sorry about that. So it's either probably a fruit fly or the regular, yes. I'm sorry. Or it's probably the kind that eats meat. If you have anything that's food-based in your trash, I'd recommend getting rid of it. I mean, I'm assuming you do. But yeah.
Boys.
It happens.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed my content and would like to buy me a beer about it, there's a link in my bio. There's also a link in my bio to my YouTube channel. These might get taken down on TikTok. I have gotten thousands of requests to do different MOSs. I am trying to get to everyone, I
This is
promise.
one of the
Each
older
video
videos.
takes me approximately 4 hours to write material and to film. So until next time, thank you for your service.
This was from 3 years ago. I think I've mostly covered the videos that I can. I'll check to see if there's another short one. Because, you know, I absolutely can't do an hour-long video or one of the others. But yeah, just... he covers a lot of really interesting stories. Ah, yes, the killer bird. Ah, I see. I have no idea if that's true. Now, do I cover the boat? I guess I will cover the... but, well... So, question. Do I cover the B-1 or the... well, do you have any interest in learning about the Davy Crockett? Oh, okay. That's interesting. Using your school laptop as that. I mean, as long as it's on a level... oh. Ah, yes. Behold, the tanker trolling Russia. You can watch, as long as they're not engaged in battle. I'm sorry. My father also snores. Ah, yes. Poor Anne. But as you can see here, they did a very interesting image near Russia through their flight path. I guess I'll play this one since it's short.
Today we're talking about the KC-135 Strato tanker, mostly because it was in the news all last week due to the nature of its recent mission? We'll get to that. But first, what is a KC-135? It is one of the few planes Uncle Sam uses for aerial refueling missions. You know, the whole airplane mating ritual thing. And then 9 months later, an XF-85 Goblin is born. Anyways, this aircraft is quite literally a flying gas station. And that's not me exaggerating. Your average gas station can hold...
The Goblin was an actual aircraft. It was a parasite aircraft that would be deployed from another aircraft.
30 to 40,000 gallons of fuel at it. The KC-135 can carry 33,000 gallons of fuel, or 200,000 pounds worth, all while traveling at a max speed of 580 miles an hour, which is awfully fast for a plane referred to as the tanker toad. But that nickname actually has nothing to do with its speed. You see, back during the Cold War, there was a mission known as Operation Chrome Dome. Basically, B-52 bombers would be doing hot laps around Alaska and Canada 24/7 all day, every day for years. This was a precautionary measure in case there was a nuclear attack from the Soviet Union. In the unfortunate event that did happen, the B-52s would then take off directly towards the Soviet Union to return the favor. This is known as mutually assured destruction. Thankfully, it never happened. However, it was a KC-135's job to meet up with the B-52s on the way there and refuel them, giving them enough fuel for their one-way mission. And the KC-135 was expected to give all 200,000 pounds of fuel to the B-52s, leaving none for itself. The crew was then expected to crash land the plane in the ocean or in Siberia, giving the crew virtually no chance of survival, thus the nickname Toad. Take off and die. You gotta love that dark veteran humor. Luckily, that never actually had to happen, and now we just get to watch aerial refueling videos, which I'm gonna be honest, they give me goosebumps every time. I mean, here's a video of the sexiest aircraft of all time, the F-22, pulling up and saying, give me 30 grand on pump 1.
Contact, boom interphone.
Oh, you guys make any good food?
Whipped up a few pizzas, pretty much guaranteed. We're gonna make some cookies when we're on our way home.
Nice.
I can't even begin to imagine the amount of skill that takes. But it's actually not that big of a deal. All you have to do is set cruise control and link them together. But yeah, before you go saying that looks like it's easy, go ahead and walk into a public restroom and realize that half the people on this planet apparently can't even hit the toilet with their own dick while they're standing still. These two pilots just got two aircrafts that weigh tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds to Netflix and chill while going 500 miles an hour. It's fucking impressive. Not only are the pilots of the KC-135 skilled, they are the greatest trolls of all time. Once upon a time on November 2nd, 2022, multiple Twitter accounts that monitor Flight Radar 24, a website that monitors almost every aircraft's flight pattern on the planet, noticed that an American KC-135 was doing a penis-shaped flight pattern directly off the coast of Syria with the tip of the penis pointed directly at a Russian base. Gotta set a tone. This might actually be the most expensive go fuck yourself of all time. And the best part is this isn't even the first time it's happened. In 2017, naval pilots did this off the coast of Washington. I'm just gonna level with you, this is a use of my tax dollars that I approve of. In conclusion, universal healthcare would be pretty cool, but this universal unhealthcare stuff can be pretty fucking hilarious at times. Thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Alright, so he doesn't cover anything else, so that's it. Glad you two are able to talk through Discord. Oh, no. Oh no. Me, jump scare. Hold on. You know, you guys should probably whisper that so that, you know, other people don't start harassing you two. I mean, it's not like many people come onto my channel, but you might want to whisper that outside of the stream. Yeah, I have little less than 5 minutes to finish getting ready, and I need to go to work. BFB. Oh, profile picture. Oh, thanks. I'm going to go now. It was great having you both here and everyone else who came by. I'll see you later. Have a great day, and I'll try to stream, well, after, I have to do some stuff after work, but after that I'll try to stream. Alright, bye-bye. Bye.